Hello, everyone, and welcome to the other side of the news. Let's take a look what's happened today. It's in today's Wall Street Journal, July 2nd. FAA's handling of Boeing 737 MAX issues faulted in Transportation Department review. Safety fixes after the first Boeing 737 MAX crash became snarled in FAA delays and repetitive analysis, wasting any chance U.S. regulators had to prevent the second fatal accident, according to investigation by the DOT. The sad part about, besides a lot of people dying, is that Boeing should have got their act together really quickly and realized they had a lot riding on this, now billions and billions of dollars, and they needed a fix, that they could implement relatively quickly, and then they can go back and start looking at other things. But the FAA is the FAA. It's a federal bureaucracy, and there is no bureaucracy in this country that's quick. There's no federal bureaucracy that doesn't sit on their hands all the time, take 5 years to make one little decision. I mean, that's the federal bureaucracy. But Boeing's not that. So Boeing should have pressed along and gotten some stuff done, as opposed to waiting for another accident to happen before they realized they had a software program that it seemed that pilots didn't understand, they didn't understand, nobody in the corporation understood. They should have fired a few more people. Okay, let's see what else we got today. Hong Kong police quickly enforced China's security laws, thousands protest. Yeah, they've arrested about 300 people. Well, it's going to be interesting. And it's going to be a big fight because there's a lot of international corporations in Hong Kong that are going to think, well, they don't want to do business in Hong Kong. They need to do business in a place that has a rule of law, and basically Hong Kong now doesn't, which basically means what the government decides is the law at any given time. It's not going to help the Hong Kong economy, and we'll see what happens. But China, for whatever reason, China's heavy-handedness is not going to help them. How success against turned to crisis in California? Well, this is sort of funny. How success against the coronavirus turned to crisis in California? When doesn't have California have a crisis? What have we seen California do effectively? Has anybody been to California recently? They got homeless people living all over every place. I mean, nobody does anything about them. It's like ridiculous. They have other issues. I don't think they really care. Let's look what else we have here. And now on the U.S. pages, we got Seattle police dismantle the police-free zone. Well, that's about time. Maybe they shouldn't have even let it get started in the first place. I don't know how many people got shot and beat up, but that's what happens again when you get Democrats control. So keep that in mind when you vote. Now, in the meantime, so what's the plan? So why all of a sudden did Mayor Jenny Durkin issue an executive order early Wednesday morning for protesters to vacate the zone known as CHOP? They sort of come back to a sense of reality, but, I don't know how long that'll last. You can't have anarchy in these cities. Simple as that. If the politicians listen to the loudest voices, then all you'll have is a few people shouting. And who can live like that? What else we got today, Fred? Richmond, Virginia mayor orders removal of Confederate statues. It is interesting that many of these statues that they're removing didn't get put up until the Jim Crow days, and the Ku Klux Klan was powerful back in the late 1800s and early 1900s. So to a certain extent, they were manifestations of reminders of repression, and that was in many cases that was the purpose of the statue, even though the person themselves maybe wasn't that evil. And certainly the reason they put the statue up there was wrong, and it was set up to intimidate people, just like the stars and bars, set up to intimidate people. You think I walked into a restaurant that had the stars and bars on the outside? I don't think so. So now we have, Trump and his immigration thing. It's interesting that Trump's parents-in-law got in the country through chain immigration, what he's complaining about. And yet now that his relatives are in the country, he doesn't give a crap about anybody else. And so that's sort of normal. Trump's sort of pretending that, he wants to basically let the USCIS, basically immigration, and naturalization services. He wants to let him take a furlough for a few years, I suppose. Yeah, which is his plan on anything. But the reality is, it'll get funded in the next couple of weeks. We don't need all this drama. And if they're furloughing people, there's a whole bunch of other people out there not doing anything. Are Social Security offices open yet? Okay. Federal judge rejects Trump administration's third country administration policy. This is the big deal. Let's look at it. Okay, so we got federal judge rejects Trump's administration's third country asylum policy. Well, anybody could read the law. Rule that denied asylum to nearly all Central Americans was found to have illegally bypassed mandatory comment period. Again, the administration can do a lot of things, but one of the things is they sort of need to pay attention to the rules. Oh, sort of like China. They need to pay attention to the rules. And one of those rules is if you change a policy, you need to have a mandatory comment period. They could have done that, but they get impatient. And in many respects, I think they like the controversy more than like results. So now we get this thing rolled back, and now we'll have another fight about it, and Trump will say blah blah blah. The reality is we as Americans need to follow the rules that we write and we set, and we just can't set them aside because we don't like the rule. If you don't like the law, you change the law, Mr. President. That's how it works. Trump threatens to veto defense bill to preserve Confederate base names. See, this goes back to that statue thing. Now, I have to admit, I didn't realize that Fort Bragg and Fort Lee were both named in the early 1900s. Trump wants to fight about this. Again, I'm not sure this is the best fight. I'm not sure it really matters. I'm not sure people who fought for the Confederacy were, the Confederacy is a complicated issue. It was more than just slavery. Tell-all book by Trump's niece can be released. Okay, so already judges ruled that the tell-all book about Trump's niece, that basically, the niece is saying that Trump comes up from a screwed-up family, and that she can release the book. We'll see what happens. It's probably still in court. Months into corona's pandemic, ICU doctors are split on best treatment. Okay, several states focus on bars, restaurants as virus risk. This is an interesting article. RFK versus DC statehood. The framers had good reason to keep the federal district apart from any state. Yes, they did. Otherwise, you would have basically these people voting. You'd think about it. People in DC would be voting in their interest. Now you'd have a saying we want bigger government. Why? Because it's more jobs for them. It needs to stay the way it is. Voting along party lines, except for one Democratic dissent, the House last week approved a bill to grant statehood to almost all the District of Columbia and create 2 safe Democratic seats in a city that typically votes 90% Democratic in presidential elections. While Congress has the power to admit new states, changing the district's status would require a constitutional amendment. Yes, thank God. Because the reality is, I don't mind if I don't even mind if the District of Columbia went back to Maryland, where they took it from. But no, to make it a state by itself is ridiculous, because there's a reason it's in the Constitution that it's not a state. If people don't like that, they should not live there. They want to live in a state. That's the way it works. You don't like what your state's doing, move someplace else. You don't want to live in D.C., move out. The meaning of Hong Kong. Actually, this is a good thing, too. Beijing will miss Hong Kong now that it's gone. Yeah, exactly. I don't get this thing with China and crushing Hong Kong like that, because the reality is China had the best of both worlds in Hong Kong. They had a vibrant economy that was an international economy. They got all the benefits. Now, if they're going to make Hong Kong like the rest of China, all those international companies are going to leave. They're not going to stay there. Well, so what's the point? We got a population of a few million people. It makes no sense what they did. But then, that's the problem with dictators. They don't have to make sense. We talked about strike up the band. Oh, this is cute. Okay, I think this is an interesting story. Strike up the band. The Chicks renounce Dixie. They used to be the Dixie Chicks, and now they're called the Chicks. Oh. But David Lee Roth won't say if his name changes on the level. So, for those who don't know, David Lee Roth is Van Halen, and somehow he doesn't like the word Lee anymore, Though Lee, I know a lot of black people name first name Lee. If I'm correct, I think David Lee Roth's parents are Jewish people from Indiana, and I don't think I had anything to do with the Civil War. Anyway, so he decided he's going to drop the Lee and call himself L, or maybe he's just dropping the E. I don't know what he's doing, but anyway, it's more nonsense about nothing. I mean, these are simply not important things, whether we call the Dixie Chicks the Chicks or the Dixie Chicks or the No Dixie Chicks. Come on, give me a break. Thank you very much for watching today. Thank you for watching the other side of the news channel. If you liked what you saw, please hit me a like. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Please leave it, ups and downs, suggestions. This is a work in progress, so bear with me. Okay, guys, thank you very much. Until tomorrow.